Good morning, and welcome to today's subcommittee hearing. I would like to thank our panel of witnesses and our members for joining today's discussion on private sector solutions to close the skills gap. Since the Great Recession 10 years ago, the American workforce has seen a growing shortage of skilled workers. With the current deficit rising to over 6 million workers, businesses and industries are struggling to hire qualified candidates for existing job openings, a phenomenon known as the skills gap. In 2015, a survey of over 40,000 employers worldwide, participants reported that the top 3 reasons they have difficulty filling open jobs are lack of available applicants, lack of technical competency, and lack of experience. The shortage of skilled employees can be seen in our own job market data. On the face of the Department of Labor's April jobs report, the outlook appears rosy. Unemployment is all the way down to 3.9%, and the economy is adding hundreds of thousands of new jobs each month. But when you dig a little deeper, the numbers reveal the labor force participation rate remains low, with only 63% of working-age Americans participating in the workforce. In other words, there are plenty of in-demand jobs available, but individuals with skills and qualifications needed to fill them are scarce. Faced with these challenges, private sector businesses and industries have been taking matters into their own hands and are devising creative approaches to bridge the skills gap. Many companies are establishing partnerships with schools to develop programs that strengthen employees' proficiencies and align their skills with industry needs. In a 2014 survey of U.S. executives involved in workforce development, 77% of executives reported their businesses were affiliated with a 4-year college or university. 32% were partnered with a community college, and 31% a technical or workforce development program. Some businesses have put an emphasis on approaches that combine on-the-job learning and classroom-based instruction like apprenticeships, while others are relying more heavily on industry-recognized certifications and credentialing to build their workforce and hire candidates with applicable skills. These are just a handful of initiatives that private sector companies are taking to equip workers with the skills they need to succeed in high-skill, high-wage, and high-demand fields. The skills gap phenomenon is an issue that this committee has paid close attention to over the past several years, and members have taken steps based on our analysis to advance policies that complement workforce development initiatives already taking place in the private sector. Last year, the committee favorably reported the House of Representatives unanimously passed H.R. 2353, the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. This bipartisan bill to improve career and technical education would help to equip students with the skills they need for in-demand jobs while providing working Americans with a path to success. In December 2017, this committee also favorably reported H.R. 5408, the PROSPER Act, higher education reform legislation. The PROSPER Act would expand student access to and participation in industry-led earn and learn programs and apprenticeships, and it would bolster partnerships between businesses and institutions of higher education. These legislative initiatives are a good start and will be instrumental in closing the skills gap, but members of this committee can greatly benefit from hearing more about the solutions emanating out of the private sector to strengthen our national workforce and fill good-paying jobs.
Organizations in my district, like the San Diego Workforce Partnership and the East County Economic Development Council, have long spoken to me about the growing need for skilled workers. Numerous studies confirm their experiences. Researchers estimate that at our nation's current rates of training and educating students, the U.S. will face a shortage of 5 million workers by 2020, including an estimated 2 million manufacturing jobs, statistics I know you're aware of. Despite industry leaders being among the most vocal on this issue, the private sector investment in workforce development has actually declined over time. A recent report found that employers paid to train about 20% of their workers in 1996, but that number had dropped to 11% by 2008, as this chart demonstrates. In fact, between 2003 and 2013, the number of employers sponsored on-the-job training positions, the most effective model, fell by 40%. And only 22% of companies said they would consider hiring an employee who required additional training when they were having trouble filling a position. This unfortunate trend follows the cuts in federal investments for workforce development initiatives. Between 2001 and 2016, WIA and WIOA formula grants were cut by 40%. Perkins CTE was cut by 30%, and adult education programs were cut by 20%. We must all step up to the plate. I look forward to hearing how companies can be encouraged to invest in their workers. Tackling the shortage of skilled workers will take the cooperation, we know, of cooperation of businesses, of schools, and the workforce development system to expand evidence-based programs. Then there are many good examples around the country, including in San Diego, of ways that employers can invest in a more prepared workforce. Registered apprenticeships, for example, bring together industry experts and educators to provide students with a hands-on learning experience. Students are often able to earn money, receive stackable credentials, and establish a valuable mentoring relation with experts in their chosen fields. I'm looking forward to hearing from the witnesses what they believe the federal role should be in ensuring quality and prestige. Prestige is important in this area as well, for workforce development programs and where we should be investing resources in order to expand effective initiatives. I was proud to be among hundreds of members who supported WIOA when it passed the House because it sought to help workers benefit our businesses, revitalize our economy, and strengthen the middle class. WIOA is also responsive to individuals' various barriers to employment and allows for critical support services for participants. I was also pleased to be able to work in a bipartisan manner to pass the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. Federal investment in high-quality career and technical education that is accessible to all students, regardless of background, will help address the need for a highly skilled workforce. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the need for greater engagement with institutions producing a large percentage of minority talent. Employer outreach to students before they graduate can help address the skills gap, which in many minority communities is particularly acute. In certain occupations, including the tech sector, women and people of color are woefully underrepresented, and the skills gap can be more of an outreach gap. So I'll continue to work with my colleagues to ensure that we are investing in students and workers throughout their professional careers. I look forward to hearing about the good work that our employer witnesses have done in this space, and I look forward to hearing about what more can be done, as my colleague has said, to encourage employers to work with the community colleges, the workforce development system, and CTE programs to build a workforce that meets the demands of our global economy. Once again, thank you for being here.
I will now introduce our witnesses for this morning's hearings. Mr. Stephen Partridge is Vice President of Workforce and Economic Development at Northern Virginia Community College. Ms. Tamar Jacoby is President and CEO of Opportunity America. Ms. Tracy Tapani is co-president and owner of Wyoming Machine Incorporated in Stacy, Minnesota. Mr. Ryan Costella is Director of Strategic Partnerships for Click Bond, headquartered in Carson City, Nevada. You know we have a Ryan Costello, right? Thank you very much. Ms. Jacoby, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairwoman Fox, Ranking Member Davis, members of the subcommittee, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Tamar Jacoby. I'm president of Opportunity America. We're a small think tank that focuses on economic mobility, and we also spearhead a coalition of employers stepping up to provide career education. And I'm here to paint a picture of what employers are doing. You know, it's often argued that companies don't do enough workforce development, and the critics aren't wrong. Business needs to do more, but a growing number of employers are waking up to the need. Programs are proliferating. They come in all shapes and sizes, and I'm going to use my time to talk about 3 examples. I'll start with the biggest, Walmart Academies. So in February 2015, Walmart made news by announcing that it was raising wages across the company. But arguably the bigger news that day was that the nation's largest private employer was going to offer on-the-job education to employees. 3 years later, the culture of workforce development is deeply entrenched at Walmart. One program with a big payoff is for frontline supervisors. Those are the hourly workers who manage the grocery and apparel and other departments. Courses are taught at regional centers called academies. There are close to 200 academies nationwide, usually classes in the back of a store. Managers learn all day, every day, for 2 weeks on company time. A lot of thought goes into the curriculum, but the delivery is casual, conversational rather than lectures. And workers combine time in class with time on the shop floor, practicing what they've learned in a real-world setting. The program has a significant effect on employee retention, a 10% increase for the employees who actually go through the program, but also a 10% increase for the people they supervise, because it works. Walmart also reports increased worker engagement and customer satisfaction. And what makes the program work, and it's one of my themes today, is the way it combines classroom learning with hands-on practice in a real-world environment. It's the key ingredient of apprenticeship, but applied in this case to a shorter, less structured, less technical program. Example number 2, Toyota T10. Toyota maintains 2 gold standard workforce programs, the Toyota Advanced Manufacturing Technician Program and the Toyota Technician Training and Education Network, which teaches automotive diagnostics and repair. The concept at the heart of both is collaboration with a college, usually a community college. And that sounds simple, but it can be surprisingly difficult in practice. Thousands of companies across the U.S. partner with community colleges, but the quality of these partnerships is very uneven, from meaningful to check the box. The challenge Toyota faced was how to build a national network of meaningful relationships. T10 links 36 colleges to nearby Toyota and Lexus dealers. Toyota supplies late model cars, diagnostic tools, but the most important thing it provides are standards. Instructors have to be Toyota certified. There are protocols and procedures for the colleges and the dealerships. It takes 2 years for a college even to get into the program. It's constant review. Texas State Technical College maintains a fairly typical program, 2 years. Students spend two semesters in the college, then a semester on the job at a dealership, then they repeat the cycle. They graduate with college certificates, but also industry certifications. Between 90 and 95% land a job at the dealership where they interned. Starting salary $30K a year, and it can rise to $85K with experience and a little more training. The last example is another partnership between a company and a community college, but with a twist. It's an employer working with the non-degree division of a college. So many of those who enroll are older students. Most don't aim to earn degrees. I call it unbundled community college. Students learn the skills they need for a job unbundled from what they need for a college credential. Spirit Aero Systems makes cutting-edge airplane parts, and when it opened a plant in North Carolina in 2010, it formed a partnership with the non-credit division of Lenore Community College. Why the non-credit division? It's not answerable to an accreditor or a faculty committee, so it's flexible, more flexible and nimbler, better positioned to respond to an employer's changing labor needs. Lenore also found that many students prefer an unbundled approach. This is a growing trend nationwide. Students who return to community college for just 1 or 2 courses likely to help them move up on the job, then leave without a credential in a hurry to get back to work. Today, more than half the workers in the Spirit plant have come through Lenore, and this year the college launched a new program, a spin-off of the Spirit partnership, a 13-week manufacturing academy supported by several companies in the region. The new academy is also a non-degree program, but students earn industry certifications, and Lenore has agreed to count those certifications toward college credit, bridging the gap between the degree and non-degree programs and combining the best of both worlds. No one knows how much unbundled community college exists across America, but many institutions report the trend is growing. I'm out of time. This raises many questions for policymakers, this experimentation. Should government be helping to jumpstart programs? Should federal financial aid be available for a wider variety of educational programs? Should policy do more to accommodate unbundled community college? Questions beyond my scope. The good news I bring today, many employers are stepping up.
Ms. Jacoby, I'm very familiar with the T10 program. There's a fantastic partnership between Toyota and Forsyth Tech and Winston-Salem, as you know. One question that people ask is, how does Toyota ensure the rigor of this program is consistent when offered at so many different community colleges?
That's really the beauty of the system. It's very intentional, it's very structured, and they have 3 main strategies. One is the material and the practices, the procedures, and it's for the colleges and the dealerships. Curricula, worksheets, work journals, evaluation forms, you name it, they've thought of it. The second stratagem is the 2-year approval process for the colleges. So they're assessed, Then they have to make a lot of changes. They have to develop several units of curriculum. It's very, and it's all reviewed. And the third stratagem is peer pressure. So Toyota has built a national network of these 36 colleges, and they watch each other, and they set the bar. They meet once a year. There are classes at that conference, and that curriculum that the colleges create has to get reviewed by your peers. So they're all kind of competing, and it's really a great system.
Great.
Ask you, because we talk about the fact, and we know that private sector investment has fallen off, how we spread that message. And what is it that you think is actually compelling to employers to think more creatively about this and how they can be a greater part of it? Well, Ms. Jacoby?
Yeah, I think what's needed is a shift in culture. I think a lot of employers have come to the thinking that it's somebody else's responsibility, the government, the educational system, the students themselves, and we need to shift that. And that's going to be important, not just because they're going to get involved and put muscle in it, but because of quality control. They're really going to insist that it's good and that it meets their needs. So, the question is how to shift that culture, and I think it's starting to shift, and so some good examples in the tight labor market. I think there may be a role for government in priming the pump in some ways and prosper and ways to do it. I think there's also a question of what are the models? I run a coalition of employer associations, and my members get calls every week. Some employer that says, I'm desperate for workers, I'm willing to put time in it, I'm willing to put money in it, what the heck do I do? And the problem is what the government holds out now is that gold standard program, which is registered apprenticeship, but not everybody can do an apprenticeship, and we don't hold up some of these other models that are, I think of them as apprenticeship is the marathon, where's the 10K and 5K and 1K race? I think we should be doing more to hold up those models so employers have something they can take off the shelf and do in their community.
Okay, thank you. And let me go to Ms. Jacoby. In your testimony, you described the support Toyota provides to dealers participating in the T10 program. What are some of the skills employers need to develop in order to improve the efficacy of their workforce development efforts?
That's a great question. On the employer side of this work-based learning is not easy. I mean, imagine having a 17, 18-year-old in your office who's never had a job before. Toyota schools them. They actually call it training for dealerships. And it's about structuring the program and figuring out what the young person is going to do, giving them appropriate tasks and so forth. Toyota does it for their on-the-ground dealerships. In other cases, companies hire intermediaries. There's a whole world of profit and for-profit shops emerging that help employers figure that out. I think in some great cases the schools can help, the colleges or the high schools work closely with the employer. It can make a big difference. It's often overlooked. Forgive me, I meant to look last night and I didn't. I don't know if Perkins money can be used for the schools to help do that, but it's a really important part of it. The work-based learning is key to making this work, and employers don't know how to do it often.
And without objection, there being no further business, the subcommittee now stands adjourned.